Hello everyone, welcome back to Book Club Preview. I'm Michael, and today we're looking at The Son of Neptune, Chapter 8, and this is finishing the 4 chapters of Hazel's story. So the chapter starts with dinner, and this dinner encounter is amazing. Wind spirits are floating around, bringing everyone the things they like to eat. It's almost like a Harry Potter kind of magical scene where dishes are floating around. I don't know why, but for some reason, one of the wind spirits kind of shows their body and then giggles when they give Piercy his food, and then goes back into being a wind spirit. I don't know what that was about. If you read the other series, maybe you have a hint. Well, they're eating food and they start talking. And they end up talking about how Hazel got her first stripe. Oh, it might be important to notice that usually at Hazel's table, there's no one there, just maybe Hazel and Frank. But today, there's Piercy, and there's also, I believe his name is Dakota, their leader, one of the leaders in the 5th cohort. And so there's actually 4 people around this table, which is really unique. So they're all talking, and they start talking about how Hazel got her first stripe, her official badge into the 5th Legion. And how it happened was Dakota was in a field, I think that's his name, and all the unicorns were on a stampede. That means they started running like crazy. Okay, they weren't controlled, they were just running. And Dakota was there in the middle of the field, and they would have ran over him and killed him, or hurt him really bad. But Hazel was nearby, I guess, and she stood in front of Dakota, and using her power to control the metal in the unicorn's horns, she steered them away from running over her and Dakota. And actually, Hazel was more scared that the unicorns might hurt themselves, and so that's why she was moving them. But she ended up saving someone's life too, got her first stripe, and official member of the Legion, which is super cool. Piercy is really curious about Nico D'Angelo, and he's kind of like, yo, Nico, how do we know each other again? And are you sure I didn't see you? And then Nico starts talking about his sister and his family. Oh, man, Piercy's so sharp because Nico says something, and Piercy sees like a little hint in it. Like he says, oh yeah, Hazel's one of my sisters. And then Piercy's like, oh, you have other sisters? And Nick's like, oh, dang it. And then he has to share more. And then Piercy's like, oh, question? And Nick was like, oh, man. And he has to share more. And so Nico D'Angelo shares how he used to have a sister. They used to live in the underworld. She died, but he still got to see her. But then his sister decided to become a new life. And she left. And is now something new. But he still gets to be with Hazel. Piercy's like really asking some really good questions, just friendly questions, but he's just asking questions. And I believe it's Hazel's like in this position where, oh man, she is either gonna have to lie or gonna have to start telling the truth. But then luckily, Dom the Fawn is like, yo, Hazel, what's going on, girl? And he's like, oh, I'm coming over. And as he's walking over, he's stealing food from people's plates, and he sits down at the table. Fawns aren't allowed in the camp, and they're certainly not allowed in the mess hall. But Don comes over anyways, and he kind of saves Hazel from having to share more. Saves Nico D'Angelo too. Well, they keep talking, and Piercy's still focused in on getting information. He asks a question. I can't remember what it was. But Nico D'Angelo is like, hey, you know what? Why don't we let these 3 get to know each other, and let's get out of here. So Nico D'Angelo, Dakota, and Nico D'Angelo can hold Ghost. So he takes Volantis and then Tom the Fawn, and they take all of them away. And that was really good because there was going to be something that they didn't want to talk about and that Piercy was going to find out the answer to. And so he kind of distracted him by causing this other scene. And so now that the 3 of them are together, Piercy's just trying to, like, so tell me about you guys. Like, what's going on? Who are you? Why is the 5th cohort so bad? And they just spend some time getting to know each other. We learn that Frank is really new. He's only been here for a month. His parent hasn't claimed him yet, so he doesn't know who his father is. Mother, I think he knows mother's human. He doesn't know who his father is. And because of that, he's a little bit embarrassed. You know, he doesn't know which. His father hasn't claimed him, so he feels like he's a disappointment maybe. We also learn that the 5th cohort, they lost their eagle once. We learn that these eagles actually have kind of magic power from the gods that actually protect each of the cohorts. This eagle that the 5th cohort lost was super, super special. And it was actually the eagle for the whole camp, I believe. And I said in the earlier video that each cohort had a different animal. I think I was wrong. I think each cohort had an eagle. But the 5th cohort's eagle was really special. But they lost it in the 80s. So that's like 40 years ago from now. The leader of the 5th company went to Alaska to try and get the eagle, but it didn't work out. A lot of them died or went crazy, and they lost the eagle. And that's when the 5th cohort started being like a cursed team. We learned that Jason came along. Oh, sorry. There's all that missing eagle information there. What else did we learn? Yeah, I think that was all about learning about each other. So we learned that when Jason came along, Jason was part of the 5th cohort, which is super cool. And Jason was really amazing and powerful, and he was building up the 5th cohort again. Actually, the amount of people in the 5th cohort now is partly because of what Jason had been doing about getting people into it and finding good recruits and things like that and helping them have victories. But then Jason disappeared. Well, that's another reason why people think the 5th cohort is cursed. They finish talking. Well, they actually don't finish talking. But then a horn goes, "Brrr," and Raina stands up and says, "Time for war," or something like that. And now it's time to start the war games, which we learned the 5th company has lost 13 times in a row. But I have a feeling that they might win this time. Well, let's look at some vocabulary. The first one is beamed or potted. That just means hit. If you stand up quickly, you might be hit by a pile of beans or a bowl of beans. Hit by beans, beamed by beans, or potted by a pot. Potted also just means hit. Chugging, that's like drinking really fast. Just going down like maybe one cola or water or whatever. And we learned that Dakota, his father is Bacchus. And Bacchus is kind of the god of wine and laughter and fun, maybe some other things. And so even though Dakota doesn't drink wine, he drinks red Kool-Aid with 3 times the amount of sugar. And he's like really hyper and crazy. So he chugs all his drinks. Shooed is usually like this, like, "Oh, go away, fly, shoo, shoo, shoo." In this case, it's talking about the unicorns and Hazel, and she kind of shooed them away from running over her and Dakota. Furlough, this is like a small vacation that soldiers get. They don't get a real vacation because they're always soldiers until they finish their service, but they do get to go outside and relax a little bit. And when Hazel first went out into the world, she was like, iPads, TVs, internet, what is this? She was pretty freaked out by it. Horse. This is when your throat gets a little scratchy and you start talking in a rough way, that is horse. And Nico D'Angelo starts to become hoarse when he starts talking about his sister. ADHD and dyslexic, we talked about this in the last book, but ADHD is kind of It's a kind of mental, I don't want to say problem, but it's kind of this way that people are, some people, where it's hard for them to concentrate and they have a lot of energy. So they're like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? Oh, let me do that. And we can see an example with Dakota as he's just like banging some shields or something like that, because his mind is going too fast for him to concentrate on one thing. Dyslexic, we talked about, but just to review, it's when you read words backwards or you switch parts of words or parts of sentences. And that can be kind of difficult for kids when they're learning, and especially learning how to read. Periphery, and that is on the side. So Dakota and Nico D'Angelo and Valantis, all of the officers are meeting at a table, but those three are kind of on the side. They're not in the center of it. They're kind of distant. I think this is the last one, pouted. We might have had this before, but it's like, kind of like this sad. And Frank looks so cute when he's pouting. And Frank says like, oh, I'm allergic to dairy. He can't drink, lactose intolerant. Oh, that could have been a vocabulary word. Lactose intolerant means you can't have milk and cheese and butter. And so Frank can't, and he feels a little sad because he loves ice cream. Well, the discussion question I have for you is, have you ever been the underdog? All right, think about this. Because the 5th cohort, they always lose, and they don't have a lot of skill. They're considered cursed, and so they're always the underdog. That's someone who's probably going to lose. Okay, we use that word in a board game or soccer team or maybe at school. Have you ever been the underdog where people didn't think you were going to win? And maybe you did lose, or maybe you actually won. You know, but have you ever had that experience where you were on like the loser team? And of course, please make your own discussion questions. I can't wait to see you guys later. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Book Club Preview, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, if you have any questions about the video today, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. If you had any other vocabulary words that you wanted to know what they meant, let me know. And also, if you're interested in maybe joining one of these book clubs, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.